Well, sure. We want to publish uh, the most cutting-edge research on Japanese cinema, on Korean cinema, and on intersections between the two, with a long, contested, and interesting history between Japan and Korea. But we're really looking for, just good work in all ways. I would say we're particularly interested in kind of the new historicism. It's been one of the kind of weaknesses, I suppose, in the history of Japanese cinema, especially, where there's a lot of sort of impressionistic text-based kind of things. But we're open to a lot, so we're just looking for good stuff. Well, the key differences, I suppose, are that Japanese cinema has a long global history, and people have assimilated it far more, and Korean cinema still seems to be something new. But internally, also, the Japanese cinema just has a longer history than Korean cinema, especially if one imagines the colonial period as, in a certain way, Korean cinema as a contested site, and Korean culture, Korean language, and Koreanness repressed by the Japanese, so then Korean cinema becomes a real problematic. In fact, it's an interesting historiographic issue in Korean cinema, and that is, what is Korean cinema under colonialism? And is it a branch of Japanese cinema? But stylistically, they actually are not that far apart. Recent Korean cinema has been influenced by Japanese cinema, influenced by Hong Kong cinema, and has in turn influenced them. But Korean cinema, the difference between new Korean cinema and new Japanese cinema is actually astonishing. New Japanese cinema is almost culturally indistinguishable from American cinema. But Korean cinema, because it's freed from the censorship of the 50s and 60s, and because it's been newly capitalized, Korean cinema is really embarking on a kind of project of Korean nationalism and nationhood that makes it both a global cinema and a kind of national cinema. I sometimes wonder about Japanese cinema. Is it Japanese anymore? Which is another contested issue. I mean, be the scholarly interview or just a general interview. But it's interesting that Korean cinema really is interested in Koreanness, and a lot of Japanese cinema seems no longer to be concerned with Japanese. Well, that's the key issue for North Korean cinema and the history of North Korean cinema, is that the North Koreans had been mad about cinema in the 60s and 70s, just absolutely crazy about it. But it was impossible to see North Korean movies anywhere in the world except for mainland China. And they have no distribution system to get it out. It's just very hard to see North Korean films. And much of what's written about North Korean cinema is based on written sources. Nobody can do sort of genre analysis or textual analysis because it's almost impossible to see the films. But once more of that, I mean, that in a certain way, that's the great unmined scholarly area of North Korean cinema. You could go there and go to their archives and see movies and all that. It would be very interesting, but it's just impossible unless you somehow get it through mainland China, in which case most of it is dubbed into Chinese. You'd be watching Korean movies with Chinese language.
And is there any availability online through, I don't know, streaming through particular websites or?
I've never seen such a thing. No. Never seen such a thing. Even in South Korea, it's very problematic to once in a while, in a festival setting, you can see North Korean movies. But even as recently as 6 years ago, the Busan International Film Festival, which is South Korea's showpiece for the world, they were going to show the North Korean version of the classic Korean tale of Chunhyang, and at the last minute, the South Korean government refused the showing. So we were all very excited to see the North Korean Chunyang, wondering how they were going to really integrate Chunyang into communist ideology, but we never got the chance. Yeah, I think Japanese cinema is certainly concerned with popularity in the West. So they make films with an eye toward the export market. They also make films with an eye toward the festival or the art cinema market. And certain directors have managed the tricky task of being both genre directors and art film directors. It's probably both a director-oriented and a genre-oriented cinema. I mean, in some ways, I guess it always was, but it seems very much in the area of horror movies, youth movies, and also playing on the reputation of certain directors. But there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of movies that are available that have yet to be written about of new Japanese cinema. So I would hope that people would take a kind of left turn away from your now internationally known film directors and get into some of these genres that are popular among audiences but have yet to find academic. It's often the lag. Sometimes we in the Academy think we're on the cutting edge, but I find in the case of Asian cinemas there's actually a lag, and that fans are the first to know and academics catch up. I've been in the academic game a long time, and the problem is that every time you send it out to a different reader, you potentially introduce a new set of problems. And I really want to be the facilitator of new good work. And so I want to do everything in my power to any essay that has potential to usher it into press, and I don't want to start getting it bogged down with. Although I put together, the editorial board was chosen with an eye not only to expertise, but to people who seem sensitive to the project of getting new work into press without imposing their own will or views upon manuscripts. And I have had no problems with that sort of thing. Well, first of all, the production was smooth as silk, and the quality of the journal as a physical thing is astonishing. When I got the copy of the first issue, I felt like a kid. That I was so pleased and proud. And what's interesting, of course, is Intellect, the production over in the UK, and me over here in the US. It's amazingly smooth and efficient, and it's just been professional and it's just great. I mean, I can't believe it, but as I say, the physical quality of the production was just great. It just looks great, and I think that goes a long way, because there's some, well, most journals look okay, but sometimes there's some that are better than others. It really looks good. It really looks nice. I'm at the moment avoiding the special issue. Right now I want to put it on the path toward normality or regularity, and that is I'd like to develop a backlog, maybe out of which we could create some special issues without pushing publication of accepted articles too long. But right now I want it to be established as if you have good work in Japanese and or Korean, or the combinations of them, that we're a place you would consider to publish and put it on the assembly line. So in its early stage, I've been involved with new journals, and they do take a while sometimes to take off. But I just want that one to let it get settled, and then we'll go